Hey gang, Bryan here. If you're coming to this episode from a podcast called Bring Me the Axe, I'd like to assure you that you're in the right place. Dave and I decided that before we got too deep into this podcast business, we changed the name of the show to something a little more original. As it happens, there's like 6 podcasts called The Brothers Grimm. It's hard enough already to stand out amongst all the other horror podcasts. Why make it harder on ourselves by confusing ourselves with other shows? From now on, we're the Bring Me the Axe Horror Pod. And if you want to connect with us on other platforms, you can find us simply by Googling Bring Me the Axe Horror Podcasts. We're everywhere. And now, on with the show. You're listening to the Brothers Grimm podcast, presented by the Cinema Suicide Film Society on Substack. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can also find us on Twitter at GrimmBrosPod. And if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, you'd be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I just wanted to get all that out of the way right up at the top of the show. I'm Brian White, editor-in-chief of Cinema Suicide. I'm joined by my co-host and actual brother, Dave White. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah, good. Good to hear. So we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores. Steady diet of utter garbage that those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day. And there's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with more about trashy movies than Dave. So this week we are doing a doozy. It is way more than I was expecting, and that is saying something, seeing as how last time we did Amityville 2. So I'll give you a little taste of what's coming up here.
So terrifying, so powerful.
Night Warning
has been named Best Horror Film of the Year by the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror. Billy and Julie, young, innocent, in love. It was all a mistake. They didn't go looking for trouble. They were just too curious. Without knowing, they've uncovered a deadly secret. By accident, they've stumbled onto a grisly murder. Now, they know too much to live. A chilling tale of a young boy and girl, innocent victims, now targets of a frenzied obsession with murder. See the award-winning Night Warning.
Now, so we're doing Night Warning, also known as Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. Did you notice?
Dumbest name.
Fucking
dumbest.
Terrible names. Did you notice anything weird about that trailer?
Not really. I think whoever wrote the copy had never seen the movie.
Pretty sure. Also, there's like 1 second of Susan Tyrell in the whole thing, and she's basically the star of the movie, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, she leaves no scenery for anybody else to eat.
It is nuts. It is just crazy. So, let's do a little facts, a few facts about this thing. So, also a warning before we get rolling. Some little feedback about the last episode that people were not expecting. We are basically going to talk about this movie from beginning to end. So expect spoilers. If that's the thing that kind of bugs you, which doesn't really bother me. But I strongly encourage you to pause this, go watch the movie. It's like available everywhere. You can get it on Blu-ray. You can watch it on Shudder. It's very accessible. Go do that, then come back. Otherwise, here we go.
Yeah, we're about to spoil this 40-year-old movie.
You've had your time.
Yeah, seriously.
So this was released, or rather, it was produced in 1981. I guess it was released in 82, depending on where I looked. It always says like this movie was released in 81. I don't know. So other movies released in 81: Scanners, The Howling, The Beyond, The Evil Dead, Happy Birthday to Me, The Funhouse, and An American Werewolf in London.
It's a bit of a sleeper year.
Yeah, real fucking banner year too. Like that's 81 is tough to follow. I mean, that all you also had so Halloween 2 come out that year, and
Yep.
Friday Part 2. So this was released in the UK as just Nightmare Maker, which I think is a better title, but it's still like I don't know what you were supposed to call this movie, but like originally I had just sort of assumed that there was no way that the production script of this movie had either Night Warning or Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker on it,
And it didn't.
maybe, unless you found something that I didn't.
It was originally called Mother's Dead.
Oh shit. Okay.
Well, according to IMDb.
All right, because one of the facts that I sort of dug up about this, and I can't really find any real corroborating evidence of this, but I've read in a couple of spots that all sort of source the same like IMDb trivia page about it, was that this actually began as a novel that was sort of optioned to become a movie, and the original novel was called Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. But that might not be true, so I don't know.
I think it's the other way around.
Oh.
I think it's one of those ones where, like, the movie comes out and they do a novelization of it.
Did they just novelize everything, though?
They sure did,
Because-
and god damn it, I love collecting things, and I will go out and buy them all, because I also love spending money.
Jesus Christ, this is true. Like, I mean, it seems like in, like, the first few years of the 80s, they novelized everything. Like, there's a Friday the 13th novelization. I think
There is a My Bloody Valentine novel. There is a Black Christmas novel.
that is crazy. But from what I read about it, so the novel was actually written by the guys who wrote the movie. And the novel expands greatly upon the movie. And there's a lot going on in this movie already. But, like, there's a ton of gaps that you sort of notice if you're paying attention. But like there's a ton of like background on so like there's a lot more backstory characters. There's a bit more about Coach Landers and Brody, the sort of murdered TV repairman, and sort of like like their relationship. There's a little bit more about that. There's some stuff about is Chuck Strang like there's that. There's a lot more about that and Aunt Cheryl's like relationship with him. So like this looks like it seems like a book that's worth kind of digging up, because like it's already pretty interesting. So this was originally directed by a director named Michael Miller, who was one of Corman's guys, but he was canned for moving too slowly, which seems really uncharacteristic to me of a Roger Corman protege.
Did you see who his cinematographer is?
Was it Jan de Bont?
It's Jan de Bont.
Which is wild, because like the movies that he directed, but the stuff that he was like DP on, fuck me, that guy worked on like some awesome movies.
Die Hard.
So he was replaced with a guy named William Asher, who gets the screen credit, because I mean he directed the bulk of the movie. And if you look him up, his credit list is really interesting. He did mostly television. But he did a bunch of...
He did a ton of AIP movies. He did all the beach party movies, all the teen ones.
Right. So here's like a list of some of his titles for features he directed: Beach Party, Bikini Beach, Muscle Beach Party, Beach Blanket Bingo, and How to Stuff a Wild Bikini, which is the best title. But he was probably known. He did a little bit of Twilight Zone. He did.
He did. When it came to television shows, it was like I Love Lucy, I Dream of Jeannie, like all the shit,
all the big
from
ones.
the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I Love Lucy. He did some of the later ones, the stuff in the 50s. But he was also known for creating Bewitched. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he was if he was married to.
I think they were dating. Like they were in a relationship for a long time. He and Elizabeth Montgomery.
Right, because it sort of strikes me as like a project. He was like, well, I got this girl, and I might as well like create a thing for her.
but she was also in a lot of the TV movies he did later. So I think he did the Lizzie Borden story from the 70s.
all right.
She plays Lizzie Borden. As you know, I'm a bit of a television film aficionado.
This is true.
From the 70s mostly, and the 80s.
Right, and that's actually kind of interesting because one of my notes on this is as I was watching, about halfway through, pointed out that this movie, if it wasn't for the nudity and like the sort of abundance of gore that happens toward the end, this movie has a real like made-for-TV vibe.
Oh yeah, the pacing of it for sure.
And like the weird, also like the way that the credits roll over the movie at the beginning, like the movie is just going. It's not like it has a very long credit sequence. It's like all of a sudden like it's like guest starring, also featuring as like the movie is playing. There's dialogue and shit happening at the time. So like the presentation of it is very strange and it feels very compact and like maybe this was meant for TV at some point. So a year after this movie was released, it basically went completely unnoticed, which is a shame. And so they retitled it as Night Warning, which I believe is the version that you watched.
Maybe I watched I got the Code Red Blu-ray.
Oh right, okay.
I think 2018.
So I think the Code Red one is actually Butcher Baker, but anyways, it doesn't even matter because I think the only difference between the two of them is the title.
Yeah, I will not even honor that title.
And based on that trailer that we just saw for Night Warning, it's very clear that they're trying to downplay the Susan Tyrell part for some reason. Because if there's any reason to watch this movie, holy shit, it is her.
Yeah.
So I had an initial thought, like immediately as this starts going, because like this movie really does kind of hit the ground running. My first thought watching it is, it would not take very much to turn this into a John Waters movie.
Not at all. I mean, the only thing I know Susan Tyrell from is Crybaby.
Yeah.
Oh, she was also in Forbidden Zone, that movie
the Danny Elfman movie.
Danny Elfman's brother made.
Right. Because it was a vehicle for Oingo Boingo, and it stars her. I also
and Hervé Villechaize, her boyfriend at the time.
Oh no shit, that's a fucking strange detail, if anything. But I also know her. She's in the movie. She's in the first Angel movie, which I don't know if you've ever seen Angel, but that movie is sleazy.
Are those like the softcore movies from like the 90s?
No.
Or 80s?
This is, well, I don't know if I'd call them softcore, but it's the one where it's like
she's like a sexy detective?
Kind of. No, she's a high school student by day and a prostitute by night. And I've only seen the first one, and it's like there's a serial killer who's like murdering like
high school prostitutes,
sex workers on the LA Strip, and she and like a bunch of like Hollywood weirdos kind of team up to stop them. It's first of all, it's a good movie. Like it's good by our standards, but it is unbelievably sleazy. And Susan Tyrell is in it as maybe like a pimp or like anyway, she's basically,
I like where this is going.
And she's basically, it's her at the end of this movie with the short hair and all that. But like as I'm watching this, I'm thinking like Divine could easily replace her. Bo Svensson could be replaced by like Tab Hunter. Just like it wouldn't take much for this to be a John Waters flick.
Well, so I think that's the weird thing, and it's worth noting this up front, that these movies, like these kind of video store classics, because they weren't made, or most of them aren't made with support from the big studios, they can get away with a lot more. I think this is a really good example of that, as we'll get into in a minute, but it is frequently cited as like being kind of groundbreaking in that it is one of the few movies from the era to positively portray gay men.
Yeah, I've got a note.
I am not so sure that that's true.
I've got a note in there, and it's mostly just the way that Coach Landers himself is portrayed is very interesting to me. Because he's it's 1982, and they very easily could have made him like a limp-wristed, like lisping, interior decorator or something like that. Just like the way that that Hollywood handled gay characters at the time was just not even a little bit charitable. It was always...
Well, here's a quote from Steve Easton, the guy who plays the coach. And it says that he's describing his character, and I'm guessing this is at the time. It says, he's a gay man, but he's not a pervert. He just likes men, and he's got a boyfriend, and his boyfriend is murdered. And it's like, okay, that's a positive portrayal of gay men.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just, in any other movie, I think that he would have been like a leather daddy, or he would have...
Like, look, he's gay. He's not a pervert, though. No. He's not like the rest of them.
Yeah.
God damn, man.
Yeah, it really is a bit of the same sort of revisionism that you tend to see, particularly like since Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was kind of reclaimed over the last couple of years. Like now, I've seen Robert Englund talk about it, where it's like, it's very progressive. And it's like, I don't know, ask Mark Patton about that. Cause
it was progressive? Yeah. I'm offended by that now.
Yeah. Don't go watching those in Search of Darkness documentaries then. Because like there's a whole section about it. And it's like, that movie kind of ruined Mark Patton's entire fucking life. You know, so like maybe ask him how he feels about how progressive that movie was.
Yeah, so I mean, just because the coach isn't like mincing in like Paul Lynde, I'm not going to go giving them a GLAAD award.
Yeah, I do think that there is. I mean, and this is just me, but I do think that there is really sort of something to be said about this, because this is really. It takes a certain kind of restraint for Hollywood not to just turn it.
That's true.
Into a fucking caricature.
I will give them some credit. As a gay man, I will tell you, this is not as offensive as it could be. And as offensive as most of them were at the time.
Yeah. So shit, let's get into this, because oh boy. So we start out in the distant past, and Billy is like 3 years old, I think, and he's being handed off to Aunt Cheryl as his parents get into their car, and then we get a sly look from Aunt Cheryl as they take off, and then what follows is
my notes just say, from minute one what kind of performance you're going to get from Susan Terrell.
Holy shit, it is arch. Like,
also apparently the role was written for Patty Duke. I want that movie.
Oh man, I could see that, because this would have been that kind of that period where she was getting kind of edgy and shit. Because, like, didn't she play, like... She played, now I'm,
well, she's in every TV movie ever made.
That, but I'm trying to think of, she was... John Waters cast her mostly for Sensational. She was the one who was kidnapped and...
Patty Hearst.
Patty Hearst, yeah.
Yeah, I think she was the Patty Hearst story.
Yeah. Oh, man. But I would also like to see that movie, because I guarantee like she would also lean the fuck into this.
Which reminds me of that great joke from Schitt's Creek, where Moira Rose does her one-woman show, One Crazy Summer, the Patty Hearst story.
Oh man,
fucking brilliant!
That show is so great. So immediately, right out of the gate, they're driving around. What is going on in the backseat of that car? There is like an entire clothes rack back there, and the first thing that kind of hits me is that the car's. We find out that the car's brakes are not working. I get the feeling Aunt Cheryl knew something about that, as it's sort of revealed later on. But the car is swerving and sliding all over the place, and then there is a tractor hauling a bunch of logs, and it's like, okay, the old logs through the windshield bit's coming up.
Oh, it's coming up, and man, do they deliver.
This car wreck is really makes sure that Billy's parents are dead. It's like they asked a 10-year-old to describe their death scene, and he just got carried away, because the log goes through the windshield. You see that coming a mile away. And, of course, the head is hit, and then it starts to sort of drag the car around. The car's getting whipped around, and then it gets thrown off a cliff. It rolls down the cliff. It falls off the cliff. It hits a river, landing on the roof, and then the car explodes.
Explodes like it is full of nothing but barrels of gasoline.
It's so great. And like when that happened, I'm like, All right, I see. I see where this is going. Like we're in for a real ride.
Yeah, touche, Jan de Bont, touche.
Yeah. So that's the end of Michael Miller's. That's basically his contribution to the whole movie, which it does kind of feel like a different movie.
Yeah, what a mic drop.
For real, like, I mean, oh shit, he's moving too slowly. We got to really pick this pace up. Like, at least he really kind of, what he did deliver was great. But so we move up. It's now 14 years later, and he's been living with Aunt Cheryl the whole time. I believe it's the day before his birthday. And right off the bat, we are in weird sexual dynamic land.
I mean,
we gotta do something about this, or we're gonna become like the incest pod. This is the second movie where this is kind of a running theme.
Like, is this like a thing? Is this their relationship? She's like purring in his ear and acting all coquettish.
So gross.
Yeah, my note literally says, so gross. I don't care for this.
It's super, super, like, it's very, very unpleasant. Like, oh my God, like, is this what they do all the time? Is this how she wakes him up, like, every day? How long has she been doing this to him?
Well, see, this is like the thing in, what was the last one? The Amityville 2, where it's like, is this just your normal dynamic? Like, neither of you notice how fucking weird this is?
or more importantly, like, well, no, I was going to say, like, is this reflective of the writer's attitudes? Like, is this just like what people fucking did back then, and they just like threw it in there, and then they kind of turn the volume up as the movie goes? But I would assume that this is supposed to be a red flag, like right off the bat, that like things are not well in this house.
Yeah, I'll tell you what else is a red flag is that goddamn terrible wig she has on.
That's crazy. Like, her hair was short originally, right? Like, I mean, like the one you see later after she's cut her hair.
Yeah, that's her actual hair. And at the beginning.
Right. Yeah. So this is, we're establishing things, and Billy is like going to be 17. He's got a girlfriend. He's just like, your average American high school boy at the time. He's played by Jimmy McNichol.
It was Christy McNichol's brother.
Right. And this was kind of like, this was really sort of like the high time for that sort of like teen idol time.
Yeah, but I don't think he was like a teen idol. I looked at his IMDb thing, and I was expecting like kind of like a Sean Cassidy list, but I'd never really heard of it.
I was gonna say like it definitely sort of seems like he was probably like hired for that, because like his sister was also kind of like the kind of plucky kid who ended up in the just the same sort of situation.
Yeah, but she was in like Little Darlings? Is that the movie she was in? And she was on One Day at a Time, right?
Yeah. But like, like this was also the time like Leif Garrett and Sean Cassidy, and like that stuff was really going. So I mean, I suppose that this was just kind of like, a good vehicle for him, and he does play like the character very well. Like he's not like a one-trick pony like these other guys where they kind of like cast them as everything and just sort of like hope that they would float on their good looks, because like
like at no point does he sing a song,
right? But I gotta look it up. I bet you they put a mic in front of his face at some point, because all those guys got him. But he plays basketball. He's really, really good at basketball. We're looking at a scholarship. That's the word. And all of a sudden, a wild Bill Paxton appears. Yep. And I love that, because he's great and he's young, and apparently he was up for the lead originally for this movie.
This is classic prime Bill Paxton era. I love this era for Bill Paxton.
Because we're running up to Weird Science, fucking Aliens.
But you got what is that Mortuary before that?
Yeah, he's the lead in Mortuary, isn't he? Or he's the bad guy.
Well, is someone going to yell at me for spoilers if I say what he is?
No.
Because he is the bad guy.
Yeah. But
in really righteous makeup.
Yeah, man, that dude, when he died, what a bummer. He was the best. He was the best. But as we come to find out, Aunt Cheryl not into this scholarship, the scholarship thing. She is dead set on keeping him at home. And her earliest...
She's clingy. She is a clingy lady.
Her earliest overtures, compared to where this movie ends up, are are pretty chill. She just goes ahead and calls him stupid to his face. Like
Yeah.
this, college is
That's hard.
College is where smart people go, and you're not smart. Which, god
Yeah,
damn,
classic negging.
god damn.
Yeah. She took one of those courses on how to neg women.
Yeah, she's a pickup artist these days.
I mean, she's putting it the wrong direction, but it's fine.
But she's on fire. Like we go into the next day, it's birthday day, and like she is really playing this like Machiavellian plan to just keep him from leaving her, because she is as we find out, she's got problems with people leaving her.
Yeah, this is some real Ike Turner shit when she comes in with the card. And she's just like, I'm sorry I hit you.
Right, because she gives him a birthday card.
This is classic.
And she's like, well, good luck with the scholarship, and you're going to do great at college. But as he's reading the card, I love this little touch they put in where as he's reading it, she's like with little motions, she's mouthing the words as he reads it. It's such a sweet touch.
So apparently this character, the whole movie, is basically, it was inspired by Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah.
It is basically just a ripoff of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but there's no explanation for anything. Like, you understand in that movie why Betty Davis is this sort of off the rails wacko.
Yeah.
You kind of get it, and it progresses. This just comes out of the gate where it's like, nope, Susan Tyrrell is just a lunatic.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's very much an exploitation version of like a better movie with better actors.
Yeah.
Because they can't be bothered. There's no time for subtlety and nuance. Like they really just are like, well, she's crazy. But
I agree.
But also, what is the deal with all the Christian decorations around the house? Like, she's got votive candles. There's Eastern Orthodox icons. There's that really fucking grim picture of Jesus's head, or maybe it's the head of John the Baptist, because there's no body involved. There's
everything about the whole set is designed like it is someone's last known photograph. It is. Every frame of this movie is just so upsetting visually.
And then, a little later on, he goes up to the attic, and the attic first of all, it looks like it's half of the house, but it's also covered in cobwebs. It looks like the Haunted Mansion at Disney World. What is happening in this house? Has she never been thought to go up and maybe dust a little? But this whole house is so weird, and there's candles everywhere, and she's got a fucking candelabra that she goes around with. It's so wonderful. It's almost like,
yeah, it's like they got someone from Hammer Horror to come do the set dressing.
This movie is 1 degree removed from a V.C. Andrews novel.
If that.
Good God. That's what I kept thinking was if the novelization of this doesn't come with a little die cut cover where there's a girl's face within a window or something, I would be
standing uncomfortably close to her brother.
Yeah, I would be very disappointed, but it looks like it's just a movie poster. So apparently her plan to keep Billy around is to murder the TV repairman.
And Lord, she is coming in with Blanche Dubois levels of desperation.
It's crazy how hard she comes on to him. She's like, I need a man.
Yeah.
She's in this dress. She's got the flower in her hair, and the guy very casually rebuffs her. And this does not go over well. She turns on him and stabs him to death in a way that just spatters blood everywhere.
Yeah, this scene is really brutal.
It's crazy because it's all over her. This pink dress is suddenly brown. I
mean, if he had done this in Bewitched, that show would be a lot more interesting.
It's crazy because this movie comes out of nowhere in terms of Asher's career. Everything else he had done is sitcoms and beach party movies, and then he's got this one that is creepy and squirmy and makes you feel real bad while you're watching it. And
yeah, it's like Tennessee Williams, but really fucking gross.
It's got to be. It's just like the last one in Amityville, where like he was probably just he knew somebody and he wasn't doing anything at the time and was like, yeah, sure, I'll come in.
Yeah, he owed somebody a movie.
Or or he was like getting audited. Like who knows? But like this movie is just a weird like dark spot on the guy's resume. It's wild. But so while she's doing this, Billy is like right outside, and apparently her neighbors are as well. That neighbor lady is.
Oh man, I love
hilarious.
her.
Marjorie. She is the best.
Yeah, she is shade personified.
So they're all kind of coming in, sort of congregating in the house at the same time, and they're there just in time.
But that scene before they come in, when she's like he's in the kitchen with her, and she's just like fucking grabbing his hair and grabbing his face and like rubbing blood all over him. It's really upsetting.
It is. Oh, it's because this is like the first like real sort of like explosive scene of violence in the movie, and then it cools for a really long time. But
one might say too long.
I would say that as well. This movie has pacing problems, but
for a movie that starts at 11, it has some real pacing problems.
But it definitely once it's like, okay, we're going into the end game, like it totally makes up for it. But this murder scene in particular is like really, really brutal, and it sort of sets the table for the rest of the movie as she sort of sets it up like, this man tried to rape me, you all saw it, but of course like nobody saw it. Like they all came in and the guy was just laying there dead, and she is hysterical, like she is out of her mind.
Yeah, it's like everyone in this scene, nobody knows what kind of movie they're in, and they're all in a different movie.
I've got that as a note too, like she is acting in an entirely different movie while they're making this, because like everybody else is just like measured, and like their performance is very ordinary, and she is just like the whole time. Yeah. Like it is so crazy. But this is when the police show up, and these guys are the worst movie cops I've ever seen.
Yeah, holy fucking shit.
I've seen a lot of Giallo cops. These guys are so much worse. First of all, apparently dead body, hilarious. These guys are laughing it up.
Yeah. So the guy, Bo Svensson's partner, the kind of sort of skinny, balding guy.
Britt Leach from Silent Night, Deadly Night.
From Silent Night, Deadly Night.
I love that. I got a note of that. As soon as he showed up, I was like, Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's great.
My other note says, this is probably a pretty accurate recreation of a post-rape interrogation.
Oh God, because he just kind of comes over and he's like, "So do you buy this whole rape thing?" He's like, "Nah."
Now just see what she was wearing. Ayo. But God damn,
but like of these cops, like Bo Svensson's, what I can't even remember his name. I just know him as Bo Svensson, but whatever that cop's name is, he is the worst fucking cop ever. I mean, it sucks that his instincts are right, but like, what the fuck, dude? Is everybody gay to this guy? Like
he is like cartoonishly homophobic,
and they are loose with the F slur in this movie.
It
is because there's really his.
Yeah, for a movie that's real, like progressive when it comes to the gays, they're pretty quick to be calling people the F word.
There's a really fucking great note where he basically sits them down and has them sort of go over their story again. And he apparently one of her claims was he touched her boobie, which I pause it and go back just to make sure that that's what he said, and apparently that's what she told him.
Yeah, I hope that was it. That was a little bit of improv from Mr. Svensson.
Oh God, but like he lays it on so thick. And like the whole time, it's like, well, I hope he gets killed because this guy is a fucking monster. We'll get to it eventually, but when he does die, oh, it's so great.
And meanwhile, Susan Tyrell is giving you like every shade of Louise Lasser in Blood Rage. Like,
holy shit,
she is just over the top the whole time.
Oh, good God, yeah, I know that was one thing that we kind of talked about before we even got into this, was like the sort of comparison of those two performances, because Louise Lasser's Blood Rage character is also like equally as unhinged. I was expecting Susan Tyrell at just at any point to just like start smearing the walls with like handfuls of turkey stuffing or something like that.
Yes.
It's
operator.
You can't leave me like this. Yeah.
It's an emergency. God, I love that movie.
We're gonna have to do that one at a certain point because that one abuses the fuck out of the joke.
It's not cranberry
sauce. Like they do that like 3 times in the movie. It's like, all right, you guys, let's relax a little bit.
Like you only got one line. You gotta lean in.
And they love it so much they put it on the poster. Yeah. So yeah, the intensity, like the cop's instinct is right that Billy, like I don't think actually, well no, his instinct is that Billy did the killing, which he didn't, but he is so like committed to this. To this conclusion, which, you know, I've watched a lot of true crime shit, and apparently, I mean, that's how the cops operate. Like, they get an idea, and that's just kind of how it goes. Follow it all the way down, no matter what. But like, he is super, super menacing because, like, eventually he comes back around just to be a real pain in the ass to Billy. And that's when she says to Billy, "Don't you know that homosexuals are very, very sick people?" Oh, good God. Yeah, like this is
and I was like, well,
that is
I guess
that is a characteristic of like her personality that kind of keeps coming out, and they never really say where it comes from. Though I would assume, like with all of the sort of like religious iconography around the house, it probably is sort of born from there. But like everybody in this movie is like super, super freaked out about gay people, and this is when Bo Svensson comes back around, and he's. Not... Wait,
did you skip the part where they go to the police station?
No, because okay, well maybe because I think actually I do think that sort of I'm jumping a little bit ahead because this is the part where he's like, child molestation is up 3%,
and he walks in and there's a woman who was like in handcuffs walking by, and he's like, "What are you doing here, Nancy?" And she goes, "Fuck you."
And
that is the best part of the movie.
There's a pamphlet on the wall next to him that just says rape in block letters. It's like, rape is up 14%. I'm like, holy shit, what is happening in this community? Like, don't go to Arizona. But his office is also really fucked up. Like behind him, he's got like all of his sort of like military badges and trophies and stuff like that, and then this is when Coach Landers kind of comes.
But like, why does he have a dog all the time? Is this just his dog that comes to work with him?
Apparently, or like he's just got like a police dog that he hangs out with. But I didn't see the dog when he walks into the frame and he sort of starts talking to like whatever it is off camera, and I'm like, who the fuck is he talking to?
Yeah, that is a weird choice to be like, just have him start monologuing.
Yeah, and then the camera pans over and there's a German Shepherd like chained to the floor next to his desk, but like opposite his desk, because this is when Coach Landers comes in. Like Svensson's gone to the school. He's seen Billy like playing basketball, sort of interacting with Landers, and I think this is the part where he sort of goes up to Landers and he produces the ring that kind of like,
yes,
that's sort of like, I know you're gay and this is your boyfriend, and why aren't you more upset about this?
I mean, fair question. He does not seem that.
He does not
upset.
seem all that bummed. Like this. Like his boo was just murdered.
I mean, very sick people, I guess.
But he says something like, you might want to think about resigning, or else you'll get lynched. Which, like, fuck this. Like this.
Yeah, real nice school you got here, homo. Be a shame if something happened to it.
He really is going. He's like really going for it. Like his personification of this character is like, I really want everybody to just hate the shit out of me.
Or alternatively, that might be a pretty good representation of cops in 1981.
I think you might be onto something.
Because you know what? He is cartoonishly homophobic, but it's not that far off the mark.
I would say that you're right. But so let's get back to. I want to go back. I just want to remark upon some of the decorations.
You want to go back to Nancy?
So, no, there's some of the decorations in his office. There is a scene. So when Landers first comes in, he steps into the office, and as soon as he steps into frame, the camera kind of pans with him, and there is a bullwhip attached to the wall.
Yep.
And at first I'm like, wait a second, like who's the degenerate here, Svensson? But and then like it sort of pans over, and it turns out that he's just got like this kind of like Western motif going on.
Well, this is like in Silence of the Lambs when they introduce you to Buffalo Bill, and you're just gonna in his house, and it's just like weird serial killer shit. And then there's just like a blanket, like a quilt, a knitted quilt, or however you make a quilt, with like a swastika on
that's
it.
right.
And it's just like, wait, what the fuck is that?
Clearly, clearly something is up.
Like, why is there a bullwhip on the wall? I don't know. Why is there a Nazi blanket in Buffalo Bill's house?
It is
just serial killer stuff.
Like right before it sort of like revealed the broader sort of motif of the office, I was like, what is happening here? Like, why is there a bullwhip on the wall? But then so we go back and
the 80s, man.
I mean, it's just decorating, man. I mean, the whole time we're sort of dancing around it, but Billy's got a girlfriend.
Played by what's her face from Newhart, Peter Scolari's wife in Newhart.
Yeah, she was like I had to look this up, but she apparently is like significantly older than
she's like 30 something like at the time.
Jimmy McNichol, and she plays young, but like after I read that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess she does kind of look like she's in her 30s. But she's like a photographer, maybe just for fun, maybe for the school, but like
it's real hard to tell where the school starts and stops in this movie. Like all the scenes where they're outside eating lunch, I'm like, where are they? At school? Are they at the park? Are they at the mall? What's happening?
I suspect that's kind of like a Southwest and also like California thing, because I've seen that in other movies where where because it's fucking New England. Like we've got like we eat indoors, but like I think they used to do that in like Beverly Hills 90210 and shit. Like California schools were a little bit more loose. They had outdoor sort of dining.
But we had that wooded area. Everyone went to smoke cigarettes. You had to crawl through the fence to get to.
Oh, that's right. Oh, also, yeah. Also, when I went there was actually a smoking section, which that's unheard of. As we're introduced to her, actually, and I'm going way back to the beginning. So we see Billy playing basketball, and you don't really see what she's doing, but like every time he like does a sweet basketball move, there's like a snap sound, and the frame like stops. It happens a few times before it's revealed that she's taking photos of him. And I thought I was having a stroke at first as this scene was playing out.
That also has a real TV movie feel to it. Like that menacing kind of someone's watching me type of thing where like you realize someone's looking at him and kind of objectifying him, but you don't really know why until they cut to her. Except it doesn't really work that well.
Because like I mean, the sound effect wasn't really enough. I had to watch it a second time to really sort of to like really kind of feel a little bit more comfortable with it. But the first time this was happening, I was like oh shit, I think I'm about to have a stroke. But also, he
just remember that might happen.
I should be on the lookout. But he also like has a really long meeting with Coach Landers, and when she runs into Billy again, it's like 6 p.m. and like dark in the high school. It's like, what is he doing there still? And
weirdly edgy. But also, as far as female characters go, it's like Stephen King wrote her. She is like the wet paper bag of girlfriends. Like she is flimsy and one-dimensional, and she kind of sucks and is boring.
She's really in there just to be like, okay, everybody, like, look, he's not really gay.
Yeah, cool it, everybody. Cool it, Bo Svensson.
Because this becomes like a kind of a major running theme throughout the rest of it. And even at a point where she's like, she doesn't really say it, but her implication as they're like in bed together is like, why don't we do this more? Like, you're not gay, are you?
Yeah, I know. No one's ever faked having a girlfriend before. Thinking about two people in this room.
All right, easy. Britt Leach, Silent Night, Deadly Night, he approaches her to basically, because he's got a whole like alternative theory. So if Svensson's idea is that Billy did the murder, his alternative theory is Billy didn't do the murder, Aunt Cheryl did the murder.
Which is probably like, that's everyone else's theory too, because she's creepy as hell.
She's telegraphing it like crazy throughout the whole thing. But he approaches her like in the fucking dark as she's like going into her house, and he's wearing the fanciest neckerchief with like a big gold knot on it. It was the weirdest detail. And he's like, oh, hey, didn't mean to scare you. But like, he's also kind of ill-suited to play a cop, but he'd be really, really good to play like a hillbilly who creeps and lurks in the darkness.
With a neckerchief. People don't wear neckerchiefs anymore. It's a damn shame.
Like, this is like 82, so it's still kind of feeling the hangover of the 70s. I feel like people wore a lot of neckerchiefs in the 70s. But, so this is like, so again, now Svensson shows up as Billy's like practicing basketball. And this is when he throws, I swear to God, he must throw the F-bomb like 36 times, and every time he does, like, he really puts some stank on it. Like, every time he says it, it is so nasty. Like, it is, and it's very clearly by design. Like, I kind of got the feeling that the kind of like incestuous tones were kind of like maybe done on the day. It was kind of like maybe it was improvised, because one of the things I read about the novelization is like that does not ever come into it. And apparently, like
that's like 90% of the movie.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's quite as thick as it was in Amityville, but because like in this, well, like this period that we're talking about right now, like this is that kind of like a lull in the middle, and Aunt Cheryl is really kind of playing games, but she doesn't really hit it hard again until things start to really kind of like lurch toward the conclusion. But again, she is out of her fucking mind, and this is when we find out like she's got like a shrine to what was it, Chuck Strang, who's we find out is Billy's father, and you know the big reveal that we kind of get to a little later on is she's actually his mother, and this Strang guy like knocked her up and then bailed on her, or so we think. And so she goes down and has to like knock down the boards of this room in the basement that has like a shrine to him, which she addresses like she's speaking to the shrine as though he's there, and she's addressing him while holding like this real Hammer horror candelabra. Such an awesome.
Well, so here's my question: if she has to like break into this section of the house or wherever she is, why is it decorated? Why are there like lit candles?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's actually a really good question, because she does sort of like show up with the candelabra, and there's
but there's already votive candles or whatever.
Candles lit there, right? That's a really, really weird detail. But like she's still playing games. Like the whole plot, the whole reason that she killed this guy is because it would sort of like get Billy kind of stuck up and jammed up in this kind of like legal situation that presumably she intends to just go on and on or something. It's really not clear how this is supposed to kind of jam up, because
her weird incest plan, her weird incest murder plan is not very well thought out.
It's not. It's fully crazy. But I'll tell you, just the way that she behaves throughout this whole movie is like crazy like nothing else. Like nobody does crazy like she does. Like she is hysterical throughout the whole thing.
But you kind of get a feeling at one point, like, is this kind of just who she is? Like, for real?
Yeah, maybe.
And if you watch some of the interviews on the DVD, I think it is. I think it is who she is for real.
Yeah, you had mentioned this, and I was not able to track.
She is a deeply strange lady.
Well, I would imagine. I would imagine that's kind of like. I mean, that's probably what kind of drew her to want to like to Warhol, because like she was one of Warhol's.
I think towards the end, she's in. What's she?
She's in two of his movies. She's in Bad, and she's in.
Flesh for Frankenstein.
I think that's it. It's either that or it's Trash. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, she's in a couple of his movies, and like she definitely seems like the sort of like weird ass personality that he would just sort of like gravitate to. But like again, like her character in Angel is definitely not like off the hook like this. And she seems to be kind of encouraged to do that sort of thing in Crybaby, though like that character's not like insane. She's just like kind of like a hillbilly. So we get another moment where Margie, the neighbor, comes over, and she comes over with a pie and a stack of Playboy magazines.
Yeah.
It's such a weird detail.
Two great things that go great together.
It's such a strange.
What is she doing with those?
Are they like her husband's what, like, I want to know what the genesis of this plan was. Like, maybe, like, I hope that there was like a discussion scene that maybe just got cut out or something, because
I think William Asher was just like, can we weird this up a little bit?
because she puts it down and the camera lingers long enough for you to go, oh shit, those are Playboys, and it never comes up in conversation. And this is kind of like, and this is concerning that like, because Aunt Cheryl is later very concerned with Billy's morality, so this seems like a really strange detail to just kind of let slide. But I eventually become legit worried for this woman, because as things as we're sort of approaching this scene, like, this is where things start to kind of get out of hand, because Billy is still kind of like moving away in spite of all of Aunt Cheryl's machinations, and he has.
Well, you know what you got to do in those cases? You got to drug them.
This is true. Like, because he's going out, like, the big game is coming up, and he's got the scout that comes, and so she sabotages his sort of designs on really kind of like moving this scout and kind of getting the scholarship by drugging his milk. And in the middle of the game, it really hits him, and he collapses, and she brings him back home. And apparently he's been sleeping for a really long time, and he wakes up and he's like, oh shit, I got to go to school. And she's like, what do you need to go to school for?
Best. This is my second favorite part.
She says,
you don't want to go back there, Billy. You've learned enough. Besides, it's full of perverts.
And then she says, I'll teach you things. In that weird, like, because she's got like two modes in this movie where she's completely out of control, or she has that weird sort of like demure little girl kind of quality.
And so she's basically just doing Betty Davis in Baby Jane.
This is true.
This is Jane Hudson. This is the character. She goes back and forth between, like that sort of real, wilting flower that's, this is, I'd like to order a case of liquor. And then later on, it's just like, because you are, Blanche, you are. And that's what that's it. She's got two speeds.
Oh my,
both are upsetting and crazy.
Yeah. But like the ease that she sort of slides between the two is just real wild. Because like this also sort of this sort of precedes a scene where Billy and Julie, I think is her name, they finally get around to like having sex, and the sort of the question of his sexuality comes up. But then Aunt Cheryl,
okay, but before when they start filming, when they cut to that scene, you think it's him and Aunt Cheryl at first.
I didn't get that impression at all, actually, because right before this all goes down, like, he invites her over, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they're all going to Sedona," and she gets this look like, "Oh, finally."
I guess, but I as soon as I saw that, I was just like, "Well, no, what is this?"
But then, but the whole time, there's also that sort of like first-person perspective, like Giallo killer scene where like somebody's coming up on the house, and it's like, "Oh shit!" Like, I wonder who this is. And
it's not. I hope it's Margie, but I don't think it is.
No. And then immediately, Aunt Cheryl bursts through the door. She's like, "Get dressed, and you get out of here, you slut!" and then we cut to him like in the shower, bare ass naked, and she just barges in to confront him.
And they have a conversation, and he's just standing there nude. Yeah. Again, like, this is a thing they do. Like, this is just a normal part of their relationship. Yep. I don't get it.
Right. And so he from here, he starts to go like snooping, like something is up, and he finds this box.
That's because she says, you're not going to go back to school. I'm going to make a nice little apartment for you in the attic.
Oh, that's right. And it's finally like she cleans up the Haunted Mansion attic, but it's like full of like baby toys.
Does she clean it up? Because it looks like a children's ward from the 18th century. I was going
to say, it does. I mean, it doesn't look like it did before, because before, like, everything's covered in like...
Yeah, like she swept a little bit,
I suppose. But yeah, definitely the weird quality of this is the decoration of this attic, because he's surrounded by like baby toys.
But not even modern ones.
No, it's all a little old.
Like baby toys from the 30s.
It's a really great like production design, like little detail that they threw in, because like I definitely noticed that, and I'm like, what is going on in this room? But like it really does kind of like jive with the rest of the theme, where like she's definitely like into him, but also wants to keep him there as like her little boy. So he starts to like look around. He goes into her room. He finds this very ornate box that's full of like all these correspondences where he finds, I believe, a birth certificate, and like some letters from Chuck Strang, and it's all like he essentially discovers that she's his mother, and that who the parents that he thought were his parents were her sister and her sister's husband, and they were just like taking care of him because like she was a single woman, you know, quote unquote, in trouble. And but like she catches him and sort of chases him off before he's able to really sort of like get the deal. So he puts up this plan where Julie's going to go into the house. God, I hope that's her name. But
you see what I mean?
Oh God, now I'm going to look it up. But she's supposed to go in and like distract Aunt Cheryl while he goes and gets a good look at that stuff in the box. And he essentially, her name is Julie, thank God. And essentially, this is like you think at first, but it looks like it's a death sentence for Julie because.
So I will say, at this point in the movie, I realized that there's so many things about this movie that do not work. I think as a movie, it is not very successful, but it has this sense of dread and menace that just permeates the whole thing. And I think this is when I started to I realized at this point, I'm like, this movie is really tense the whole time. Like something bad is going to happen and you never forget it, despite the fact that the pacing is all over the place.
Yeah. Right, because like it sort of hits this stasis point very early on where like once the TV repairman is killed, it suddenly just coasts for like a really long time, like it's killing time. Like it really kind of like hits you over the head a bunch of times about like, oh, he's trying to go to college and he's trying to pull away from this woman.
Yeah, there's like 45 minutes of just like weird, boring life. Punctuated with Susan Darrell screaming about perverts.
Yeah, that and Bo Svensson just being awful. But this is the moment where the movie just kind of like switches gear and just goes crazy. So like at one point Julie is distracted. I think she's like looking in the refrigerator or something like that, and she hits her over the head with like a meat tenderizer, which she has been pummeling like a steak flat. Like this is like an ordinary cut of steak that she manages to sort of like double in length from just like nervously smashing this thing to pieces. And she turns it on Julie. Julie is presumably killed, like because there's blood all over the place from this thing. And this is where Margie comes back in, or maybe she's been here, like she's been hanging around, or she feigns that she leaves at one point because she's very clearly tipped off to something going on. And this is when I'm like, I'm really worried about this lady. And it turns out that my worries are not for nothing, because Aunt Cheryl suddenly goes like full Pamela Voorhees, where there's a machete that's been in play this whole time.
Yeah.
Like Marjorie gets.
Yeah, my favorite part when Margie. My note says, "How about the slapstick comedy where she gets the hatchet stuck in Margie's
Oh my
leg?"
God! Like they really beat on that body.
It's a real zinger.
Yeah. So, like, my note was, you got your potboiler in my slasher movie. You got your slasher movie in my potboiler. Two great tastes that taste great together. Because, like, this is definitely, like, it goes to say, like, it really is, like, a weird V.C. Andrews novel made a movie, but for, like, the first 2/3 of it. And then all of a sudden, it is an all-out slasher movie where it's, like, it's dark and it's storming and...
Well, you get the feeling that the first director came back to finish the movie.
Almost, because like the finale here, the way this movie ends is way out of touch with the rest of the movie. Like the rest of the movie is it simmers, and like you said, like you know something bad is going to happen, but the way that things bad, like all the bad stuff happens, is not like the rest of the movie. It's really, really wild. It's almost like producer notes came in and were like, let's make this a little bit more like Friday the 13th. The kids really like Friday the 13th, so like they equip her with a machete. Britt Leach shows up and gets his hand chopped off when he goes to turn on a light. Like all of a sudden, like this is the body count just climbs substantially because like for most of the movie, like one person is dead the whole time.
And there's like 5 minutes left for the
This
movie.
is true. Like this is not a long like conclusion or drawn out, but like Julie, it turns out, is not dead. She's just been like knocked unconscious. Margie has been sort of like sneaking around the house, and she finds Julie's stuff like in a closet and becomes like really kind of suspicious. And this is what ultimately like leads to her death. But Julie gets up and she manages to just dodge death for the rest of the movie.
And they roll around in that like weird puddle for a while.
Yeah. And what is it? Oh yeah, she like. Cheryl does that thing where she throws Julie and then she kind of like goes like cross body block where like it's almost like she's jumping off the top rope.
So here's where I'm going to jump in with a little bit of insight from the interview from the DVD.
Okay, hit me.
Where they watch the movie. You get the impression that in each of these interviews they do with the cast, none of these people had seen the movie either ever or in a very long time. Susan Tyrell had never seen it. So she's watching it 2012 with the guys from Code Red.
Oh, no shit.
And because she remembers it being a terrible experience, and she was like, I thought it was stupid. I didn't want to see it. Now, she ends up really loving it. And she is commenting the whole time. They don't watch the whole movie. It's like a 20-minute interview or whatever. And they get to this scene in the water, and she says, "It's just a shame that actress never got what she deserved. A big black man." And it is unclear who she's talking about, why she's saying it, who she's saying it to. She just says it out of nowhere.
Jeez, no.
And it is so bizarre. And I'm just sort of like, you know what? I feel like that sums up this movie pretty well. I don't know why anyone is talking or what they're saying or who's saying it, but I'm kind of glad I'm here for it.
Oh man, but yeah, like as we're sort of ramping up to this, like she has like fully dumped all of the drugs into the milk and like forced Billy to drink it, so he's like out of his fucking mind the whole time that this is happening. And this is the part where like she like pours it into his mouth and then she like licks his entire head.
Okay, yeah, and then she says, "I'm your girlfriend
I'm
now."
your girlfriend now. No.
And I almost had to shut it off at that point because that scene is out of control. She looks like she has legit lost her mind.
I gotta wonder, like, what's worse? Is it that scene, because that's another one of those ones where she's just like frantic and crazy and like she's cut her hair, or quote, she cut her hair. Basically, she ditched the wig, but like it's set up like she cut her own hair and it looks nuts, like it's completely insane, like a crazy person just like manically decided to chop all their hair off in this scene. Is it that scene, or is it the scene where Sonny and Trish, where he's first like, "Why don't you take off your nightgown?"
Can it be a tie?
I suppose.
I mean, okay, it's definitely the Sonny and Trish thing from Amityville, because they play that so straight that you're just like, I guess this is the thing.
Okay, I'll grant you that, because this is, at this point, this is like fever pitch. Like we are.
Yeah, she is off the rails for good, and she's like rubbing his head, and there's like blood, and she's got like the phone cord wrapped around his neck.
That's true. And then and this is the point where he gets the knife and he stabs her. And this is a really crazy kill scene, because it's not like it's not done in slow motion. It's done very quickly, and it's set up in such a way that it looks like the knife slowly slides into her chest, and like she goes over dead, but like the way that
or so you think.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's we're in slasher movie mode, so she's got to have the big comeback. But that stab scene is so awful, because it's not like where he just goes wham and hits her real fast and like the knife collapse into the handle or something like that. Like it looks like he is slowly stabbing this woman.
And this is where the movie is. This is where it differs from all those other kind of Friday knockoffs, in that those movies you kind of cheer when people die.
This part,
it's comical. This part is not funny at all. This is like,
it's a bummer.
There's nothing to laugh at here.
Just like that, this is the thing. Like, and to McNichol's credit, like he really sells it. Like, this is a very strong moment of tragedy for him, because like this is the woman who,
It was for me too. Did you see that line about "I'm your girlfriend now"?
that's terrible. I mean, that's the good guy. I mean, that's already happened, and as far as I'm concerned, he's helping himself out here by doing this. But like, he really does sort of sell it, because it is like a tragic, sad moment. Because like, it's like the beginning where like blood is just getting on everything, and he's got it all over him. It's all over her clothes, and like he is very, like really, really making you believe that like this sucks like nothing else. But of course, we're in slasher movie mode, and so she comes back and she pulls the knife out and slashes the shit out of him,
Which is also upsetting.
yeah. Oh god, yeah, again, because it looks like all of a sudden I was like, man, that knife was sharp, I guess, because like he's got like a big cut across his back and like his chest and shit like that. But she gets killed for good, and the police show up, and Bo Svensson is there. And he basically
And now all of a sudden he's just like a straight up psychopath.
he is, because he basically clears the room. He like tells all the cops to like get the fuck out. And he's got his gun on Billy, and it looks like he's gonna just fucking shoot him. Like what the fuck? Like why? Because he's given you really, I mean, apart from the fact that he's just fucking awful throughout the whole movie, just a terrible, like the worst kind of fucking homophobe. He doesn't really give you an indication that he's like murderous, and there's like no reason that he would actually.
Yeah, that's why this doesn't work, because he just shows up and all of a sudden he's just like a total psychopath.
Yeah.
Like you buy that he's a cartoonish homophobe, but this is an escalation that sort of comes at you out of nowhere.
It does, but like he's disarmed, and Billy gets the gun and he holds it on him for a really, really long time before he shoots him, and it is such a satisfying payoff. The scene like doesn't really make any sense, but like just watching him die after seeing this guy just be a terrible, terrible creature the whole time, so satisfying, so wonderful.
And then all the other cops come in and they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. Like everybody else kind of floods in, and like
Nobody likes him anyway.
Right, and Julie's like, I need to go to him, and the cop's like, yeah, why not? And she does, and then they sort of have this thing, like, and they're all like covered in blood, and like everybody's wet. It's like it's such a nasty thing. They all look like they have just been fucking through it. And then there's this,
and then back to made for
and
television
then there's
films.
this epilogue crawl that goes over. It was basically like, hey, don't worry about it. He was acquitted, and they all went to college together. And I'm like, fuck that. The movie just totally did not need that. It would have been so much better if they just.
I mean, that is literally how every episode of Dragnet ends.
Basically, yeah. Like, and just the fact that it happens at all was such a bummer. Like, I just did not care for that part at all. I think
That's because for about 7 minutes of this movie, everybody tried, and it was really effective.
It was
the
so
rest of the
great.
movie is just comical.
yeah, but yeah. So that's Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker, also known as Night Warning.
That's a doozy.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. We've kind of gone over it. Like, I feel like it's a little slow going until the third act, when it just goes crazy and drops the hammer. Everybody is acting their hearts out. Susan Tyrell is the best. Like, I mean, I feel like there's just no way, not to put too fine a point on it, like, there is just no way to sort of like oversell this. Like, she is so good, and like it's a I think it's a good movie.
I think it's an okay movie. It's a fun movie.
I think that's really what I mean to say, and
It's a movie you want to watch with other people.
definitely, this is a movie that I want to show other people. I feel like it is an experience that everybody's got to have, especially if you like horror movies, because it is really a different kind of horror movie. In spite of the fact that it's just like liberally stealing from like other movies. Like, this is, it's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It's Friday the 13th Part 1.
And it has a sort of almost foreign feel to it. Like, it feels like it was made by, like a Spanish filmmaker for American audiences.
It is. You know what? Now that you say that, the way, just the locations that it's shot in. Have you ever watched any of Jose Larraz's movies?
Oh, yes, I have.
Have you seen Edge of the Axe?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so-
have. You hated that. I kind of
I
liked
did
that
not
movie.
care for Edge of the Axe at all, but it looks like it's sort of like the same sort.
Yes.
It has that kind of weird, like, it's supposed to be somewhere else, but it's very clearly California. It's yeah. There's something about it. The fact that Asher came primarily from television.
Well, and I think that's probably what makes it feel that way. Is it feels like this is a movie made. It's a horror movie made by non-horror people.
Yeah.
And I think this is what you get is like you get this movie that's like this feels like it was supposed to be for someone else, and yet this is what we get.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things where like the inexperience kind of works to its advantage because like it definitely does not feel like other horror movies, probably due to the fact that the people who made it just don't make horror movies. But it's a really great, it's a really great effort. It works for the most part. There's definitely a lot of clunky bits that like we've sort of hit on that just don't really work. But when it is working, it's like it's just going so well, and a lot of that has to do with Susan Tyrell just flooring it the whole time.
Yeah, you can tell it's successful by the number of times I either think or say, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Why is this happening?
When it is unpleasant, it is seriously unpleasant. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I'm definitely going to show this to people. I am. Like, this was the first time I'd ever seen it also. Like, this is one that, like, it had been on my radar for a really long time. But, like, I don't know. There was nothing really terribly compelling about it from the outside, which is why I think it's been sort of like a hidden gem for so long. Like, Well,
it has a terrible name. It has a weird and kind of upsetting premise. It's just, there's a million reasons to not watch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a million reasons too. Like if you're not scraping the bottom of the barrel or like a die-hard horror person, you're not gonna watch this movie.
Yeah.
Just because like there's nobody in it you've ever heard of. It's made by people you've never heard of. It's got a weird story. It's kind of gross, and it has a dumb name.
I think the name definitely is one of the reasons why I've stayed away from it for so long, because it truly is a dumb fucking name. It takes a million years to say it out loud. It's a fucking mouthful.
And then every time you do say it, you hate yourself for having to say it.
It does not play into the story at all. Like, it gives you no indication of what the movie's about. There is nobody there are no nightmare makers in this movie. It's just
it's like someone was like, how about Night Warning? And they're like, I don't know, you got anything dumber?
No? All right, I guess we'll go with Night Warning. But so what do you want to do next?
I got one word for you. Pieces.
Let's do Pieces. 100%. I have no objections to that, because let me tell you something about Pieces. I have never seen all of Pieces. I have watched it. I have watched it in pieces, but like I've never seen the whole thing front to back.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
It is a Linda Day George classic.
All right. So that's the Brothers Grimm take on Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker. We'll see you in 2 weeks with our thoughts on Pieces. All right. See ya.